Just joining us right now at the bottom of the hour this Sunday afternoon, you are watching live team coverage of breaking news right here on 12 News. President Joe Biden has just announced in the last few hours that he plans to drop out of the race for the White House in November. That news coming, making that statement on social media on the platform X, formerly known as Twitter. This coming after weeks of mounted pressure from folks within his own party, calling on for him to drop out of the race after that debate, that first presidential debate with former President Donald Trump, where a lot of folks had some questions about his mental acuity, whether or not that he was ready for the debate. The president said, I was sick, I had a bad night, but that clearly just was not enough to quell Democrats who were really concerned about losing the White House in November.
And not just any Democrats, but former President Barack Obama and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, two very powerful Democrats, Pelosi in particular, who marshaled support basically to nudge Biden out of the race. Now, we've been talking all afternoon to delegates, elected officials, about getting their reaction. Right now we have on the phone with us former State Representative Daniel Hernandez. He is a Biden delegate. He's in Tucson. If you recall Daniel's story, he was an intern for Gabby Giffords who helped save her life in the Tucson shootings in 2011. He's been close to the family. Daniel joins us now. Daniel, are you there?
Hey, Brahm. Good to be back on.
Thanks for joining us once again. Give us the state of play now among Biden delegates and how they're receiving this news that Kamala Harris has been endorsed by President Biden as his successor, as the nominee. Do you think there will be any pushback from the rank and file on that could lead to a fight at the convention?
Brahm, since I heard the announcement a little while ago, along with everybody else, first it was a lot of confusion and wondering, is this real? Because as we know, Twitter doesn't verify users in the same way. So the first kind of messages that I got from other delegates was, is this true? And then it wasn't until the news started verifying it. Now what I'm hearing is a lot of excitement. I have had multiple people who've told me, in not just Arizona, because I'm friends with a lot of delegates in other states, including a friend of mine who's a delegate in Michigan, who's an elected official, and we just got off the phone a little while ago, and it's genuine excitement for the first time in a long time. And the belief that, having Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket will allow us to make sure that we are taking this fight to all of the battleground states and potentially expanding in some of the states, depending on who the VP nominee is. So I think there is some chance of an open convention, but I think what I'm hearing right now is a lot of people saying we need to coalesce behind Vice President Harris, and we need to make sure we do everything we can to make this a referendum on Donald Trump not getting a second term, as opposed to, anything else.
And just moments ago, we saw Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, one of the people who might have challenged Kamala Harris, throwing his support to her. He, of course, is a potential VP nominee under Kamala Harris. Do you think we're going to see other potential challengers, such as Gretchen Whitmer or J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, just throwing their support to her as well and putting this whole contest to rest?
I think so. I think what we're going to see is a coalescing behind Vice President Harris. I think it was CNN that was reporting that Debbie Dingell was on, and she was saying that Gretchen Whitmer is not running. So I think the top tier folks in those potential challengers would be the names that you just mentioned. I'd also throw in Amy Klobuchar, who was in the presidential primary in 2020. She just came out a few seconds ago and endorsed Vice President Harris. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of people saying we have 100-ish days to go. We need to do everything in our power to make sure that we elect Kamala Harris and stop Donald Trump from being president a second time.
How do you make that case? How do you make that message with so little time to go to rally the troops behind Kamala Harris to get that message out to the American voters?
I would say that Vice President Harris is one of the strongest communicators that we have in the Democratic Party. She's one of the strongest debaters that we have. I think we've already seen an ad from from Donald Trump's campaign saying he's not going to debate her because this is a party in chaos and he doesn't know who the nominee is going to be. It's not that. It's that he's afraid of debating her, because what I think was lost on the debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden was Joe Biden had a bad performance. Everybody admits that. Donald Trump also had a terrible performance. It wasn't a slam dunk by any means. He is forgetful. He goes on rants and tangents. That's why he had the longest convention speech of all time, because he is still somebody who is not qualified for the job, even though he's held the job. So I think that's the thing that we're seeing, that this is going to be a ongoing conversation for probably a couple of days, but I wouldn't be surprised if we all start getting behind Vice President Kamala Harris in the next couple of days.
Daniel, can you also can you talk a little bit about? I know a lot of folks have been for weeks had been pushing for President Joe Biden to drop out of the race. Should he have done it sooner, or is now the perfect time for him to do it? I know that a lot of folks, as you know, had been pushing him to do it. Should he have done this sooner? Or, you know, again, is, you know, him just doing it is the perfect timing for it to get done?
There is never a perfect time to drop a presidential campaign. There are a lot of logistical issues with changing your mind about being able to run. But I think what Donald Trump and Joe Biden did are completely different. Donald Trump talks about America first, but always puts himself first. Joe Biden, when faced with this decision, said, I am not the best person to be able to stop Donald Trump from being president again. I need to put country first. And then he dropped out of the race. So there's never a perfect time. But right now, I think, is a crucial moment, because we are right before the convention. August 19th is when the Democratic National Convention meets in Chicago. I, along with thousands of others, will be there to hopefully nominate Vice President Harris. But there was never a good time. But if there was something that I think we can take away from this, is he made the ultimate sacrifice. He's been wanting to be president for a long time. I think Joe Biden first ran for president in the 80s, before I was even alive. This is something he's always wanted to do, but even he understands the importance and the need for him to step aside and clear the way for somebody else to be able to make that stronger case against Donald Trump in November.
Daniel, you are also set to go. You were supposed to meet the vice president this coming week in Washington, D.C. Do you know if that's still on the table?
I've reached out and I've been told that there have been no changes yet, but to be prepared for the schedule to be fluid. So if we go on Wednesday, Alma and I, along with our mom, to the residence on Thursday, happy to come back and talk to you about what we tell her and what she says to us on Thursday. But right now, if there's a good reason to cancel it, running for president is a pretty good reason to cancel an event.
Daniel, you have deep connections to Tucson, deep connections to the Gabby Giffords and Mark Kelly. How likely is it, do you think, he would get selected as a VP by Kamala Harris if she were the nominee?
So I want to preface this all by saying I have not had any direct conversations with Senator Kelly or with anybody on his team, because it's only been about 2 hours since I first heard about President Biden stepping aside. But again, I'll say the same thing that I said earlier, which is he would be one of the strongest VP nominees, not just because I know him and I like him, but because he is somebody who brings a ton of experience. He's a veteran. He's literally an astronaut. And he is also somebody who's proven himself to be somebody who has bipartisan success in the U.S. Senate. He's able to work with Democrats and Republicans. And I think that's the kind of person that would be an asset on the ticket. So somebody like Mark Kelly, who's from a swing state, who's proven that they can win in tough races, by no means was his race against Martha McSally or Blake Masters assured, but he ran strong campaigns, was disciplined, and really showed us what he's been doing his entire life, which is dedicating himself to public service here in Arizona and, you know, in the Navy and then in the NASA.
How does Kamala Harris overcome the knock on her as a vice president, that she hasn't done the job, she hasn't succeeded at any of the tasks she's been given by Joe Biden?
And she's been somebody who's helped deliver results for Arizona and also for the United States. You know, when you look at some of the things that she's done, she was the one who was the key tiebreaker on multiple votes, because for the better part of 2 years, she was locked down and couldn't really leave the Senate because we were a 50-50 Senate. And when there were contentious votes, she was the one who had to physically be there and preside over the U.S. Senate. She built relationships with Democrats and Republicans, working on Capitol Hill to help actually guarantee some of these bills getting passed. So I would argue that she's actually been someone who's been very successful as vice president, whether it was the CHIPS Act or whether it was Respect for Marriage Act. There were a lot of times where vice president having those strong relationships that she developed in the U.S. Senate have been crucial. And that's where I also think Mark Kelly would be a big asset. He has strong relationships with Republican senators from all over the country, and he's able to sit down with folks and find ways to work with them. And I think that's something that Mark Kelly would be able to bring to the table that Vice President Harris brought to the administration, which is being able to get stuff done in the U.S. Senate and in the Congress.
All right, Daniel Hernandez, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon with your insight. You know what? A lot of folks will definitely be paying attention to this over the next few weeks, especially with the DNC now coming up in Chicago in a few weeks. We know that Daniel will be there. He's going to go talk to the vice president this coming week to see more about that. So, Daniel, we do appreciate the time as part of our continuing coverage this afternoon.